Understand the fundamentals to become a winner. Center of the universe. I got the gift and the curse. It's rebirth. I was born with a sin. Presence of my father's ashes bring chills to my skin. No father figure but alive in him. Show me who did it when I find him. I'ma put this 9 in him. Survival of the fittest.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Diamond G, coming back with a new installment of Diamond G Speaks. I'd like to thank everyone who's been supporting what I've been putting together here and the movement that I'm trying to create. And also want to thank everybody who's gone out and purchased their copy of Journey into Lupus, which is my my mother's life story, told in pretty much her own voice. You can pick that up on Amazon. You can also go to Barnes and Nobles, and you know, there's quite a few other online venues where you could get it, or you could always, you know, holler at your boy directly and I can get you an autographed copy. The book tour will be picking back up soon. I had some issues with my health, so it precluded me from you know, initiating that tour that was supposed to start, thanks to Barnes and Nobles. But you know, things are going great here, with the exception of what I've seen in this society. We seem to have severe moral degradation and a lot of tomfoolery. And the thing that's alarmed me the most is the abundance of ignorance that seems to be floating around out there, and more or less the fact that the so-called black in this country has really gone from a position of being able to hold its own to, you know, that of a joke, and you know, very susceptible to tricks, you know. And I've had it, for one, and you all know that I've been a strong advocate for education, not just in the so-called black community, but in all communities. And also really trying to find a way to defeat this ideal that so-called blacks are all lumped into one group, whereas you have, for instance, say so-called whites, they're allowed to be classified by way of their status within their own quote-unquote so-called culture. And so, for instance, you'll have you know, poor whites, poor blacks, you know, saying, you know, white trash, black trash. You know, you've got white criminals, black criminals, and I'm just using this as an example. However, when it comes down to it, not all white folks, or so-called whites, are held accountable for the actions of all criminal piece of trash so-called whites. And for some odd reason, every so-called black is held to be responsible and accountable for the actions of black trash, and you know, these American Negroes that are running around here, running amok, doing our society a lot of damage. You know, so the conversation really needs to be, how do we move from a point or a place where so-called blacks are no longer targeted in this manner. Now, we can begin with the situation with that clown Colin Kaepernick. All right, I call him a clown for this reason. You know, his stance on the flag, you know, he that's his choice. You know, you can do whatever you want to do. You don't want to stand, you do want to stand. It is what it is. When I was in high school, I didn't want to stand for the pledge because, again, I learned what it was all about, and you know, I just did not feel that I was being treated fairly. You know, there was no fanfare. You know, that was something I did on my own. I wasn't, you know, jumping up in class, you know, protesting and acting a damn fool. That was something that I did on my own account. Now, as I've gotten older, and after working in law enforcement, it means something different to me. You know, also, you know, as I grew older, I had a chance to really speak with a lot of my family members that were in the military, and you know, they reminded me of how they were treated when they came back from the wars. You know, and you know, in particular, Vietnam was a real big mess. And what tickles me is that, you know, you got all these so-called whites that are out here. You know, they're acting like now all of a sudden that they're pro-American, and these were the same people that were spitting on our troops, black and white, burning flags and everything else. You know, yeah, I see you. You know, saying understand that. You know, you can pretend that your behavior is above board, you know, but this bull crap where you get up and you're jumping up and down and you're really been out of sorts about Colin Kaepernick, it's really comical, you know, to somebody like me. Now, let me further elaborate on why I call Colin Kaepernick a clown. Now here's the deal, right? I don't give a rat's ass about his, you know, his football career or anything else. But I know this: Colin Kaepernick was fined by the NFL when he first came into the league because he made some racial slurs towards so-called black players. He got fined for it, you know, and he nearly got his ass whooped for it as well. Nobody liked him, you know, and it always is astounding to me how these so-called mixed, you know what I'm saying, or whatever they want to call themselves, multiracial at this point, you know, they have the luxury of choosing when to be black, you know, or be a so-called black. Now, please do not misconstrue my use of the word black, you know, as my supporting, you know, or endorsing the fact that we're called black in this society. I'm just basically speaking with regards to a norm here, you know. So just for purposes of expression, we're going to use that term. But anyway, Colin Kaepernick, yeah, nobody knew that, you know, basically he was black. Yeah, he didn't, you know, say, hey, I'm a black guy, I'm a black quarterback. Yeah, that wasn't happening, you know. Now, all of a sudden, this cat, you know, goes and he finds himself, supposedly he converted to Islam, and now, you know, saying my man got an afro, you know, and now he's all of a sudden so, you know, consciously aware of the trials and tribulations of so-called blacks in this country, and it tickles me. You know, one would lead me to believe that perhaps he feels now, you know, since his skills have diminished, and he was basically a one-trick pony, that perhaps he believes that the reason why he's sitting on the bench is because he's black. You know, so for him, it would be very convenient, you know, to all of a sudden try to play the black card and, you know, like, hey, look at me. I don't give a damn. You know, it's the same thing with the president. You know, again, it tickles me, man. You know, multiracial, you know, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I get that, you know, but you turn, you know, your quote unquote blackness on and off when it's convenient for you. You know, those of us who walk around in this country, you know, we don't have that luxury. Okay, you know, it's really funny because now all of a sudden people want to act like it's you know, like these are new things that are going on in society with discrimination and racism. You know, my great grandfather talked about this. You know, it was passed down from generation to generation, and I myself am what they call multiracial. You know, and that would be my classification in this country. You know, but we choose. Okay, and I choose to be who I am, you know, and if you don't like me, you know, because of my ethnicity, you know, because of my, you know, my religious affiliation or whatever, I couldn't give a damn, you know. You can straight up kiss my ass, you know, and I'm at the point where I've earned that right to be able to say that, okay, but I'm just really sick and tired, you know, of these Negroes that just decide, you know, one day gonna say, I can't do that, you know. Any person that sees me, you know, I'm a black guy, you know, saying I'm yellow, you know, saying, but I'm still a black guy, you know, and I've had to deal with this crap since I was, you know, knee high, you know. I remember when I was a child, you know, the black kids wouldn't play with me because I was too light, you know what I'm saying. The white kids wouldn't play with me because I was too dark, you know. I mean, damn, even when I was out, with my cousins, out in Brooklyn, if jokers tried to get on us, man, we just beat them down, and that's how I learned, saying who I was through these defending myself, you know, and that was a different time, we talking about, saying the early '80s, and nowadays in this society, I just look and I'm like, man, where are these guys getting there? Where have they earned their stripes at? What was that moment for them when they realized that damn, it's kind of rough out here being brown in America. Now that by no means is any excuse for an individual to say, well, hey, you know what? There's a lot of racism going on out here, and I just can't make it. The problem is in this society, many so-called blacks have been conditioned, and I've talked at length about this before. You can call it the Willie Lynch doctrine, Willie Lynch syndrome, but they've gotten to the point where they already believe that they can't succeed before they even try, and it's also akin to, when it comes to a person finding out about their heritage and their ancestry, right? Let me show you how these two things go into play, right? Now, if you're a so-called black who dabbled and conducts themselves as an American Negro, you believe that the white man, is the devil, and the white man is always holding you back. So that's your excuse for why you don't try and why you don't run the race, right? You already knocked out the door. Now if you were to flip your mentality and say, you know what, yeah, there's some bigoted bastards out there, but that means I'm gonna have to work 3 or 4 times harder, and then you also have to remember though that you have a lot of American Negroes, so-called blacks, that have basically intertwined the Willie Lynch doctrine and syndrome within their psyche. They'll try to tear you down and kick your back in. So you're gonna get it from both ends. But let's say you just be like, I accept that for what it is, but I still can succeed. I can still give it my best shot. Then you can be in a position like someone like myself to tell somebody like, yeah, yeah, I've done all right for myself. This shit wasn't easy. I had to deal with the same bullshit that anybody else. See, I can call people out on their bigoted bullshit because I've seen it firsthand. I call you out if you're a so-called non-black. I can call you out on your bullshit. I can call you out on your bullshit if you're a so-called black. Because I've seen it all. I've seen it all, and it just boggles my mind. How this has become such a critical component, of our society here. Now, let me show you how this links up. So I remember we talked about Willie Lynch. I just brought that up, and about the syndrome, and wanting to not you already fail yourself before you get a chance to get out the door, right? Now, ancestry. Check this out. Many so-called blacks in this country are led to believe that they are nothing but the descendants of slaves, right? Now, if you accept that, right, and you say, you know what, my ancestors weren't shit, they were just some old slaves. So, if I don't succeed and don't do what I'm supposed to do, it really doesn't matter. Hey, I was damned before I was even in the womb, right? If that's your perspective on things, well then you'll be running amok like a lot of these jokers are doing now. You'll let somebody like, say, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, come to your church, or wherever you're at. They'll do a little dance, a little jig, swig a little hot sauce, and start all of a sudden, now they talking like they hood, when they're in your area, and now all of a sudden you're like a pig on a spit, you're getting roasted, and you sitting there and you just don't give a damn because you don't know anything about your ancestry or your heritage, right? Now, I'm gonna use myself as an example. From the time that I was, before I could even, really run, my parents were always really, really adamant about us knowing our ancestry and our history. This is something that's been passed down through generations, and at my last family reunion, it was a blessing to have, my family from North Carolina, and Ohio. We had likeness coming from all over the place. We had likeness from down here, New Jersey. I mean, you name it, they showed up, right? And the family from North Carolina are very near and dear to me, simply because my great uncle, he made a point to show us our ancestry and our history, and it wasn't shown by books. He would actually reach out to the relatives, to other relatives, white, black, Latino, Chinese, whatever, and he would have them come to us, and we were little people, and you sit around these elders in the family, and it's a life-changing event for you, because because you're hearing all the time from school that you're just a slave, you're nothing, blacks are criminals, that they're horrible parents, they run amok, our women are whores. That's what you're hearing all the time, right? But when you have an opportunity to hear someone who is a so-called white tell you that, hey, we're family. No, your great-grandfather wasn't a slave. Your great-grandfather was my cousin. When you hear that and you get to see them, and they embrace you with open arms and tell you, don't ever, ever, ever let anyone try to take your heritage from you. This is coming from the white elders in the family. It'll do something to you, and no matter what you come across, you're not going to be shaken by it. You won't, drink the proverbial Kool-Aid. You'll basically have yourself together, and you just keep on grinding, and that's how it's been for me. Okay. And what I look to is I try my very best when I come across some of these lost brothers and sisters out here. I try to impress this information upon them, and I really encourage them to find out, about their ancestry, because it's life changing. Okay, if you're told, that you're nothing but a slave, and your relatives ain't been nothing but slaves, and you don't have nothing, you got no claim to anything in this country. Supposedly so-called blacks have never created anything, yet so-called blacks built this country. Okay, they built this country in sweat equity, literally and figuratively, but again, it comes down to a mentality, all through time as we've gone on in this country. Any type of achievement by, so-called blacks has been downplayed, and it's not as if it's been stricken from the books. It hasn't. You go to school, you'll see little dribs and drabs, like they'll give you a paragraph that big, about the role that so-called blacks played in this country. But if you go to the library, you'll find out, that it's a whole lot deeper than that, but we have come to a point in society where our youth are more concerned with, being a baller. They want that flashy gold or whatever else they got on. They get these expensive clothes, and again, it's Willie Lynch syndrome at its finest, because they busy trying to outdo one another. You know what I'm saying? You live in a damn shoebox, you know what I'm saying? But you got yourself, a 2016 Camaro with like 90-inch rims on it. I'm like, damn, you know what I'm saying? You could have got yourself a little Toyota, you know what I'm saying, and bought yourself a house. Been making payments on a house, but our youth doesn't see that. And it makes them susceptible, and it makes them a damn joke. It makes them a joke. It allows for individuals, saying like these so-called false black leaders, to be able to basically come in there and exploit the hell out of you, and they just don't say nothing one way or another. They're getting paid. You're not. They're getting paid. So this new election here is really going to be a turning point in this country, one way or another, because we've seen people really believe that there's been, since President Obama took office, they believe that racism really just kind of reared its head. So you've got those so-called liberals who stick their heads in the sand and be like, well, he's black, everything's great. Nah, fuck out of here with that. Excuse my French. If these things have been going on, President Obama had opportunities that other so-called blacks wouldn't have stood a chance. I can promise you this, right? The day that you'll see true change, and you want to see true change in this country, it will be when you have a dark-skinned, coarse-haired man as your president. It ain't happening no time soon. It ain't happening no time soon. It's just like you won't see a Jewish president here in the United States of America. That ain't happening either. And these are the ugly scars. What's happened is there's been a proverbial ripping of the Band-Aid off of a lot of these things. It's just, there's nothing new about what's going on here. People are just really out in the open about it, and there's nowhere to hide. See, having a so-called black president really put this country in a catch-22, because you've got a so-called black president, yet you have crime, and you got all this different these violent episodes that are happening. You've got the situation with law enforcement in this country, which is abysmal. You got officers are getting shot and killed. You got the bad cops that do stuff and they get away with it, but when the good cops actually have like a clean shoot, as we call in law enforcement, somehow the media decides to turn that into some sort of a racial issue. So it brings about, under President Obama, in my opinion, the so-called black police officer has become a hated target. Everybody talks about the so-called white police officer, and the things that he's going through, or he or she is going through. Absolutely true. They are going through it. But if you think that's bad, try being a person of color in law enforcement. Okay, you're dealing with all of the ills of society. You're dealing with the worst of the worst, the bigotry, and then on top of that, you have a police officer. You have a commander-in-chief who does not believe that law enforcement officers have any value. And that is very dangerous. It makes us expendable. And I don't, it's sickened me and it's aggravated me because no one ever discusses it and no one ever brings it up. It's bad enough that no one actually has called out not only Donald Trump, but that Hillary Clinton, nobody's called her out about this crap that's been going on with law enforcement. And then we can also, we'll give you an example, we can lay this problem with law enforcement and these different, the civil unrest, we can lay this at the feet of the Clinton administration. I don't want her in there again. Think about this, right? Under President Bill Clinton, right, which everybody, they all, we love us some Bill Clinton. Why do you love this man? Please explain to me. He's a wolf, in sheep's clothing, right? And what he did, he actually exposed his teeth, but he's having a time of his life, as many of these other Democrats are, laughing at you ignorant Negroes, You know what I'm saying? Because you don't take the time out to look at what's going on in front of you, right? President Clinton, right? Under him, we had the super predator. All black men, young men are super predators. You know what I'm saying? Y'all all of a sudden just seem to forgot about that. You had the highest number of incarceration. The rate of incarceration for menial crimes went through the roof. You had the degradation, you know what I'm saying, of the so-called black community because Bill Clinton did not put money into the services that were needed. Right? These are federal services, right? It wasn't Bush. Let's talk about Mr. Clinton and what he did. You know, but the biggest atrocity of all is what has occurred in Haiti, right? Now, I'm not even gonna, you know, give a history lesson, you know, about why it is that, you know, these things happen in this country of Haiti. But I'm gonna tell you what. You got Digicel, right? That was Bill Clinton's cell phone company, right? His cellular service he brought to Haiti. They basically raped the people financially. Now, you have people who are in a quote-unquote third world country, right? Why in the hell would you charge them for cell phone service more than what people get charged here? You're charging like 3 or 4 cents a minute, but then on top of that, people weren't even able to use the phone, you know, but they still got charged for it. Okay? Clinton's no damn hero. You know, he didn't give a damn about black people, man, or so-called black people. And y'all keep putting him up on this pedestal, and then you put Hillary Clinton up there. They are the reason why the majority of the so-called youth is in shambles right now to this day. Okay? When you want to talk about institutionalized racism, it doesn't get much more clear than that. You know, my take on this is simple, right? Donald Trump. We look at him, people talking about Donald Trump is the devil, right? I'm like, man, really? So you mean to tell me that Donald Trump is the devil, and what's Hillary Clinton then? You know, she must be, what's she, a clone? A clone of the devil? You know, my thing is always this. I would much rather deal with the devil that I know than deal with the devil I don't. I say that to mean this, right? Donald Trump, you know what he's all about, right? He's about money. You know what I'm saying? That's it. He's about commerce. If Donald Trump's presidency, if we would play this whole thing out, and let's say he was elected to be the president, you could count on one thing and one thing only, that there will be jobs. You know, it's be akin to the guy, you know, you go to work for him, you know the guy can't stand you, and you hear him calling you a nigger, you know, but he make sure your paycheck is there every Friday. It'll be that type of thing, right? But you know what you're dealing with him, you know, and it's striking that not only did he got the Ku Klux Klan, these Aryan Brotherhood things supporting him, but he also has the support of the Nation of Islam. What does that tell you? You have organizations that are basically hell bent, you know, on basically white pride and so-called black pride. They hate each other, but they'll come together to support Donald Trump because all they care about is jobs. You know, Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, come on, man, really? Think about that for a minute. What is she? What has she or anyone else, any of them done for so-called blacks in this country? Not a goddamn thing. You know, have your ass kicked in. That's what. You know, show up during polling times. You know, you'll see them then. They'll come to your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? But after the election goes, damn, there'll be tumbleweed in the street. You ain't gonna see them, and not only do you not see them, you will not see the dollars that are supposed to be put forth. You know, I'm always befuddled at how it is that so-called blacks in this country can be led astray. Particularly when you have a question, you put a question like they put a question towards Hillary Clinton in regards to what she's going to do. about the problems with racism and discrimination in this country. Her catchphrase and toe line is identical to that of President Obama. So I'm sitting here, I'm scratching my head, I'm like, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that President Obama ain't followed through on what he said he was going to do, and he was the quote-unquote so-called black president, and you going to tell me that you going to do the stuff that he didn't do? I'm not believing none of that. I'm not believing none of that. The day that I see a president say, you know what, here's what I'll do. I'll give up my salary. I'll forego, all of the, everything that goes, with it, with the exception of Secret Service protection. I just want to make this country, the best that it can be. Then you'll have my attention. But I'm not fooled. I'm not moved. And I'm not, going to be voting for Hillary Clinton. You can take that to the bank. Now, I'm sure some of these old step and fetch it Negroes, going to be shucking and jiving, and, they're going to have their little signs out, blacks for Hillary, and they got other ones, Latinos for Hillary. Like, y'all stupid. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking like y'all really stupid, Ask yourself, this is just a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were before President Obama took office? Then you go back even further. You say, when Bush was in office, how were things for me? Under President George W. Bush, and I'll never forget what my father told me. I'd ask him, I said, why do you support, these Republicans? He said, son, Republicans are great for business. Okay? This country enjoyed one of its best times of prosperity. And it was like, man, it's just like, wow, what the hell has happened? If you were willing to, they talk about the American dream. At that point, if you were able to, you wanted to work, you could work 2-3 jobs. I worked 3 jobs. My wife was working 3 jobs. Like, y'all, you work hard, you get what you need to get. Now, damn, you be lucky if you find 1 job. They closing schools down, and that's a whole other ball of wax. I'll touch on it briefly. The situations with ITT Tech, right? Now, these type of situations, are not hard to see. Okay, now ITT Tech and schools like that, right? They prey on 2 segments of the community. One, lower income, so-called blacks and Latinos and poor whites. They go and they get them in there. Maybe some that if it struggled with school before, but they'll get them and they'll be like, oh yeah, you come on in here, we'll teach you a trade. But they're not teaching them a trade where they're gonna be able to make, say, $30, $40 an hour. They may get 10, maybe 15 if they're lucky, right? But in the meantime, they go in there, they take out all these loans, right? By the time they get out, you know what I'm saying? Why? I mean, it would be common sense to me, of course, it's common sense. But why in the hell would I pay, damn near $100,000 in federal loans, right? Just so I can get a job making $23,000 a year. You can do that at the damn McDonald's and make more money than that. Hey, you can go to Walmart and make more money than that. But they don't know no better. Okay? So, what ends up happening, they go on in there, ITT Tech, they're like, yeah, we're going to shut them down. So, the segments of the population that are taking this on the chin, yeah, that's right, your so-called poor whites, blacks, and Latinos, the most vulnerable of our society. And I say that because of this. These are individuals that are in these schools. They are really trying to excel. They're trying to change their stars. You understand? A lot of them came up in poverty and they want out. and they realize that they have to work hard to get it. So what happens? They go to this trade school, ITT, technical school, whatever they want to call it. They work their behinds off. Now they shut the doors. And then on top of that, the president's cabinet had the audacity to say that they're looking out for the taxpayer and the public. Now, so I'm still trying to figure this out. They're looking out for the taxpayer, right? Now, what we have is tens of thousands of students that will no longer have a career. Okay, they're done. You have individuals who already graduated from ITT Tech. Since they've lost their accreditation, guess what? Those credits are not going to transfer. And now all of a sudden, your little $10 or $11 an hour job's like, oh, hey man, yeah, that's not a legitimate school. So guess what? Now you're going to be making $6.75 working at the car wash or something like that. Routed right to a dead end job. Okay, and all this is coming about under, guess right, President Obama's administration. And guess who's tied to President Obama's administration? Hillary Clinton. She was a member, Secretary of State. I mean, it's like, wow. Now I'm just touching on the very basic things right now. We can go a whole lot deeper, and we probably will. We're going to. I'll have segment 2, and give me your feedback. Let me know what you think, and let me know what you want to talk about. Now I'm not the I'm not like super brain or anything like that, but I do have a vast amount of knowledge, and I'm a very learned individual. And unlike some people, if I don't know the answer to something, I will just tell you I don't know. But guess what? As long as they're making books, I can read and find out for you. And I'm not just talking about checking one source. I'll check 5 or 6 different sources, kind of make sure that I've got the same gist. I mean, of course, anything that is written, as they always say, history always remembers the victor, because the victor is the one who gets to write the tale, of how things go. So you need several accounts of it. You're still not going to have the absolute truth, but you can get a general consensus of what the truth will be. So it's good to be back, and I look forward to reaching out to a lot of you brothers and sisters. And the Lord bless you and keep you. Be good.